just giving away the surprise.
We're live.
Aw, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
We're live.
This time, I'd like to call the Sonoma County Board of Commissioners meeting of today's date, March 2nd, to order. And before we go into prayer by Commissioner Sakala and a pledge by Commissioner Wyatt, I would like to read the instructions for the call-in. So I'll do that right now. Participants can join in the Zoom meeting using the following instructions. Log into www.zoom.us, then enter meeting ID number 977-6119-6006, or dial either of the numbers below, 312-626-6799 or 648-558-8656. And again, enter meeting number ID 977-6119-6006. If your line is muted, press 6 to unmute. At this time, we'll have a prayer before a meeting starts by Commissioner Sakala, and then the pledge by Commissioner Wyatt.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to be together. We're especially grateful for all the many blessings that you give us. We ask that you allow us to make fine decisions and strong decisions for our friends and constituents and our family and neighbors. And we remember that all things come through you. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
She's in the hallway.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Sakala, for the prayer and the pledge by Commissioner Wyatt. At this time, I'll have Denise do a roll call, please.
District 1, Commissioner John Black.
here.
District 3, Commissioner Bill Zarkala.
Here.
District 4, Commissioner Roger Ballard.
Here.
District 5, Commissioner Joel Wyatt.
Here.
District 2, Chairman Curie.
Here. Thank you, Denise. Next on our agenda today is number 6 on our agenda, adoption of agenda. And I just want to add before we go any farther, there is going to be an add-on to our agenda today, which will be part of the adoption of the agenda, and that will be FA 039-21A, approval of amendment of Monumentation contract. And as we get to that, that'll be our last agenda item on our FAs, and Commissioner Block will be presenting that at that time. So I'll ask for a approval of our adopted changed agenda for today.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Okay. Been a motion support to adopt the FA 039-21A as part of our agenda today. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All the same thing. Okay, motion passed, and with the addition of the FA 039-21. Corrections of minutes from our last meeting. Any corrections to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, moving on. Approval of minutes from February 17, 2021. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
It's been a motion made and supported to approve the minutes of February 17th BOC meeting. Any further discussion, comments? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. At this time, I'll open up the floor to commissioner reports, and we'll change it. We always start over there. We'll change it and go this way today. Is that all right? Commissioner Block.
So I don't have anything for my commissioner's report. I do have some stuff that I'll talk about during committee reports.
Okay. I will be very brief with my report. I went to a meeting at the Sandusky Airport, I believe last Monday or Tuesday. And this was in regards to solar panels possibly being installed in Watertown Township. And we got to the meeting and it really wasn't what some of us thought. We thought it was going to be more of a overview of what they had talked about the township and what they wanted to do. And it turned out it was basically about permits, of all the permits have been put in place or been requested to move forward with Samsung installing these. So the meeting was canceled, then it was put back on, and there was some questions to ask in the meeting, and there needs to be more work to be done, obviously, and there's some questions and more information given out. But the gist of the meeting was more or less for the township officials and a few elected officials. Doug Sweet was in the meeting, and the airport, couple people from the airport board was there. The fire department was there, the road commission, a few other officials from the county. So good meeting. It was just confusion on what the meeting was supposed to be about. But, Bill?
The BPW met after our last meeting, elected the same slate of officers, paid bills to date. And as far as Lexington is concerned with the Lex Heights with the hookups, they're at 1,000 hookups and about 400 to go. So that's been I was on that project 3 years ago as a BPW member. So that's continuing to wind up, but it does take some time. And that project was voted Project of the Year with the APWA. So congratulations to all of the board members that have participated with keeping that project moving forward. Sat in on MREC, which is responsible for the energy companies, litigation going on with that between wind and now solar starting to make an impact as well. MSU Extension Advisory Board, I was able to continue my position on that. There's no conflict that we checked on to make sure. Andy Northrup is the Community Vitality and Tourism person for Michigan Extension, and he talked about a new FIT program that they have, which is going to be helping with tourism for our cities and townships. And it's been, they did it as a pilot program last year before COVID kind of came around, and it'll really help the communities if they wish to move forward with some tourism projects. Port St. Lake Village, they've shifted their sheriff to winter hours, and they approved allowing CPS to use Bark Shanty for a blood drive, which I thought was very generous because with all the COVID stuff going on, they have to do some special things to keep that facility going. Lexington Township, they're going to virtual appeals board, which is something new, but they really didn't have a choice. And then they're working on the coordinating with Croslex for the bike trail improvement. And then they also hired a new weed coordinator. I didn't know there was such a
A
position.
new what, Bill?
Weed coordinator.
Okay.
But I'm talking weeds that grow
Yeah,
in
I
people's
guess.
yards, not the other kind, okay? Village of Lexington, they're moving forward. They approved the USDA water sewer grants and loans. So that big project there is going to be getting done. And then they did approve the calendar of events, things through the Fine Art Council, Music in the Park. And then they're hoping that by approving the calendar, they'll actually be able to have something this year. And then they approved also going through with the mobile home park study. They're trying to figure out what to do with the mobile home park because they're the only municipality in the state of Michigan, it was my understanding, that has a mobile home park that they manage and also happens to be in prime real estate on the water. I did participate in a solo Zoom meeting, if you can imagine that. Unbeknownst to me, Croswell canceled their meeting, and I did everything you read in the directions to get into their meeting. And I'm sitting there wondering, where is everybody? And then I look up in the corner and it says one participant. So that was me. So that was the end of that Zoom meeting, but I did get back on with them last night, and they're upgrading their internet and doing some stuff with the food pantry and some pop-ups coming forward. And their water project is really coming along. That's starting to wrap up as well. And then big thing for them right now is the EMS concerns. So they have the ambulance service down there and staffing, funding, all of that is becoming some issues for them. And they're going to be looking at that moving forward. That's it.
Thank you for the report, Commissioner Sakala.
That's all, Bill?
Roger?
Yes.
Good report.
I did sit in on the Michigan Works Zoom meeting. My first one, we have another one on the 12th. It was quite interesting. And it was interesting to know that they actually took 84,000 calls for the unemployment department when they were having all their issues and answering questions. So I thought that was good that they stepped up and did that. We had a parks meeting. Things are moving forward at the parks. Our opening May 1st is fast approaching. So hopefully the weather cooperates. DTF, not a lot going on. They did welcome their new deputy in, and now he starts the training process on the new drug dog. So that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Wyatt, welcome back to Sonoma County and your fun snowmobile up north.
Well, I would say that I'm mostly devoid of a report other than to say I did communicate with a trustee from Speaker Township. He was talking about they declared a moratorium on a certain amount of energy being used in home delivery of electric use. What do you call them? Transformers, certain size transformers. The idea being is to preclude large operations of marijuana growing. I understand that's a pretty hot topic amongst most of our municipalities. They want to know how they can limit it somewhat. I know that they get calls daily, their ordinance or zoning does, about the smell of people growing weed in their neighborhood or what have you. But most of our municipalities have opted out of commercial growing and selling and out of the adult recreational part. But they don't have a way to limit the medicinal component. So apparently that's a way to do it. So by adopting an ordinance, refraining from having a certain size transformer for them to be able to bring in.
Yeah, that's, as I mentioned, I think the last month's meeting that a couple townships I've been in, that the very thing has been talked about as a way to curb it or to put it in effect, you know. Thank you. One thing I did want to mention, I forgot in my report, I did visit the sheriff's office the other day, and as most of you know by now, they had a major sewage break here 6-8 weeks ago, which was fairly disastrous, but they've done a great job getting it cleaned up. When I was in there last Friday, they were finishing up laying new carpet, and they've got the drywall put up, and they're coming right along and doing a great job. So if you get a chance, go over, and if you have time, take a visit and see what you're doing there. I think, Roger, you maybe were in there today. Maybe I had seen you.
No, I wasn't.
Headed that way, but
Kind of like
great job.
on August Day, though. I've seen it before.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
A few years.
All right, thank you, commissioners, for your reports, very good reports. And next we have the administrator's report from Tara.
So we're continuing discussions with our insurance broker. We met last week to review the self-insured feasibility analysis or the studies that were conducted. I know we had conversations about this during our last board meeting. So this is the focus that the broker is recommending that we take for our open enrollment that's fast approaching in May for the new plan year that starts July 1. Currently, if we stay in the same plan that we have, we're looking at a 5 to 6% increase. And this is pretty typical. This does not include any of those shock claims that we did talk about at our last meeting, because the cutoff period does not include the month of December when those shock claims were incurred. So this is pretty much an average cost increase to the insurance. And typically how we absorb that is we kind of chip away at the level of benefits so we can come up with a cost that is similar to what employees are currently paying. And basically what it does is it reduces the benefit of the plan in an effort to try to save money. So we've been in this cyclical pattern that we can't get out of. So the self-insurance option may be beneficial to us to kind of get us out of that pattern so we can focus on, providing more world-class healthcare, if you will, that's affordable to employees and the employer as well. So that's what we're looking at. I did hold some discussions with the management team this morning on that, and we're reviewing the union contracts as well as the policies that we have in place for healthcare benefits to ensure that the self-insured plan would meet the requirements within those contracts. So we're looking at that. And then I'll be continuing discussions with our collective bargaining units as well. So as we move forward in this, you'll start seeing some items appear on the board agenda, and it should start as soon as next month so we can get prepared for that. So
Is one we're going to be with reviewing a contract with the union contract?
well, we've looked through and we feel as long as we meet the required co-pays, if you will. We feel that we're okay with it, but I'd still like to reach out to the unions and just make sure that they're aware
Sure.
that this is a potential option and make sure it
Give
aligns
them a
with
chance
this
to
policy.
voice on it. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Thanks for the report. At this time, I'll open up for public comments. Anything to do with the agenda today? Okay, seeing none. At this time, we have Will Morris with us, and glad you could make it, and welcome. And he's going to have the floor here. I don't know if you want to use the podium or not, Will. But,
If that's easier, I can do that.
yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Right, I'm not sure if the microphone's on or not. Can you hear me?
I think you'll be okay. I think it'll be picked up with what we have.
All right. The reason for my visit is for a couple different reasons. First, it's nice to be able to actually come in person since I haven't been able to see a lot of you in almost a year. I think we were actually, last time I was scheduled to be here in person was last March, when it would have been reappointment time for my board. And that was right before COVID hit, and we had, obviously we're unable to do that. So it is nice to actually be able to come back to the county commission and have this face-to-face contact. I mean, I was trying to do that on a much more frequent basis, and hopefully soon we'll be able to do that again. The other part of the reason why I'm coming today is that most of you may not be aware, but tomorrow is a birthday. Tomorrow is March 3rd, and on March 3rd, 1971, 50 years ago, the county commission had actually passed a resolution to create the mental health board here in Sanilac County. So for us, it's a big deal because it was the beginning of the investment in Sanilac County to create a community mental health center and to provide services to our residents. On a typical year for the last, I've been in Sanilac County now 11 years. Each of those years, we've served anywhere from 12 to 1,400 people every year. So from the onset of mental health over 50 years, you could easily say we've served over 50,000 people, which is more than the number of residents that we have in the county. Obviously, some of those we saw multiple years, but it's definitely a good commitment and a good a service that we've been able to provide. And I wanted to bring a plaque to you all, thanking you for being part of the puzzle, the integral partner process as we kick off our 50th anniversary here as the mental health provider in Sanilac County. And we look forward to the next 50 years where we start looking at new and exciting programs. Actually, I was telling Joel this morning, because we met since he's been appointed to my board, that last Friday we submitted a Ccbhc Grant application. And Ccbhc is Comprehensive Community Behavioral Health Clinic. It will allow us to receive additional federal funds to provide mental health services to more people, more residents in the community. And honestly, I can see us in a year from now, if we're funded, instead of providing services to 1,300 people a year, providing services to 2,000 or 2,500 residents in a given year. And that will allow us to provide services to more of the community and provide more things like suicide prevention, anti-bullying, and things like that we try to do now. So I don't need up a lot of your time, but I just wanted to come and say thank you. Thank you for all of your continued support for the community mental health system. And I wanted to provide this plaque to someone.
Joel, you're on the mental health board, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Why don't you, Steve, are you going to get a picture with
Yeah, please.
you want to do that?
Oh, okay.
Could you email me that picture, Steve?
Sure.
Okay, then I don't have to try and pull up my iPhone and do a selfie.
We get the board in the background.
That's a lovely idea.
Well, we just have to have Roger
Did you
stand
want
behind
us
it.
to-
You know, we can do that. Yeah, we can stand up and get close. So, is that all right?
Yeah. Yes, Paul.
Roger's there.
Everybody smile, look at me. Stop moving around.
John, move in here. John, oh, you could.
You ready? I'll take a couple. One more. Can I get a close up of that?
Okay, do I actually get it? Yes, you get to keep it.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And one of the benefits of wearing a mask, we didn't have to have frozen smiles.
Right.
Yeah, I forgot to put my partial in today, so that worked out good.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Will. Thanks, Will.
See you soon.
It's nice meeting you, Will.
Yes, nice meeting you too.
I know, you need to rewrite that.
Next on our agenda this afternoon is a presentation by Steve Curie, Executive Director of Michigan Association of Counties.
Good day, Will.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great, thanks. I do have a presentation to share. Do you guys have a copy of it? Would you like me to share my screen? What's best?
Yes.
Share the screen?
Yes, good the screen, yeah.
Okay. We'll do that. Give me 1 second.
You want us looking at you the whole time.
We got a copy here, Bill.
Probably not. I prefer you looking at the PowerPoint. Can you see it okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So just to start off, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm just going to give you a little background on MAC and then talk about what we've been working on the past few months and what we anticipate working on for the next few months. We appreciate your support of MAC and would welcome any input as I go through the slide presentation. Feel free to ask any questions. So MAC is governed by 16 county commissioners, 2 seats from each of our regions. The board typically meets at least 4 times a year. And you can see when those dates are, when those times are. And we have our elections usually at our annual conference, which is this year in September. This is your MAC leadership team. Veronica Kleinfeld is the current MAC president. She's from Macomb County. Phil Kyers, first vice president from Ottawa County, and Stan Ponstein, second vice president from Kent County. So for those of you who don't know who MAC is, what is the purpose of MAC? Obviously, advocacy is our number one role. We provide advocacy both at the state and in cooperation with NACO at the federal level. We provide various educational opportunities for county commissioners throughout the year, both through our conferences, and we also do some one-day mini conferences called regional summits, usually in June and July. And services. We have a variety of services that counties can take advantage of that hopefully save them money. One of the ones you guys are probably familiar with is the Workers' Comp Fund, which is a pooled workers' comp fund you guys are a member of and have been for a while. So now to get into some legislative issues. First, I wanted to start at the federal level and talk a little bit about the American Rescue Plan that was passed out of the House last weekend. It appropriates about among other things, appropriates about $65 billion in direct aid to U.S. counties. The aid would be distributed by population to counties directly from the federal government. It would not be a pass-through from the state. Michigan's 83 counties would receive about $1.95 billion of that. Sanilac County would get about $8 million. And right now, the guidance on the aid is could be used for COVID-related expenses or replacement revenue. And there is no time frame on when those funds would have to be used. So that's what we know right now. It is in the Senate side of Congress, and we're expecting that vote to happen probably this week. So moving on to some state priorities that we're working on. You can see this list here. I'm going to go into a little more detail on each of these with some future slides, but you can kind of see a general sense of what we'll be working on. So first off, 4-year county commissioner terms. Michigan's one of only 5 states that have that does not have 4-year county commissioner terms. We have tried to get this legislation passed a few times. Probably the furthest we got it was last session. We are going to make another attempt to get it passed this year. We believe that there's a few more former county commissioners in the legislature, which should be helpful. And we believe we can move it through some different committees in the legislature to get it passed. Next, in enacting reforms to improve the functioning of local courts. This kind of has to do with the trial court funding recommendations that came out a few years ago. Many of these trial court funding recommendation bills were teed up last session. Unfortunately, with COVID hitting, a lot of things got derailed. Basically, this kind of takes the way courts are funded and goes into a little bit more better detail on how those funds should be distributed. You're looking at basis of distribution based on caseload, types of courts, operational needs, and enhances court technology. So kind of everyone's on the same page with court technology. Obviously, courts are very expensive for counties to operate, so we are supportive of these reforms. Also looking at bolstering financing local government, something we've been talking about for a while. As you can see, property taxes are the primary function of how counties are funded. However, we do get revenue sharing dollars from the state, which I'm sure you're aware of. Incidentally, in this current budget recommendation from the governor, there is a 2% increase in county revenue sharing dollars, which we were very happy to see. With some of the other changes we would like to see coming up is ensuring a county revenue sharing trust fund, basically a virtual lockbox for county revenue sharing dollars, so the legislature can appropriate those funds for other things each year. Ensuring stable and sufficient funding of revenue streams for new and increased mandated services. Looking at a tourism excise tax for counties. With the changes with Raffaele, the Supreme Court Raffaele decision and foreclosure issues, we would like to reopen the window for counties to transfer their foreclosing responsibilities to the state. That was available to counties back in the late 90s, and we had about 11 counties take advantage of that. So they are no longer in the foreclosing process. With the changes of Raffaele, we would like to see that window reopen. And we'd like to see special tax captures, special millages exempt from tax captures, something we've been talking about for a while. Property tax exemptions, this is something we consistently battle the legislature over. Basically, our position on any sort of property tax exemption is that if the state wants to do it, they should pay for it. And if they want to give a property tax exemption, a county property tax exemption, then they should reimburse the counties for it. A good example of this is the disabled veteran property tax exemption. Obviously, something we support the concept of is our veterans and giving them any sort of tax exemption we can. However, we'd like that for the state to pay for that. And we have a plan to do that, to transfer that issue over to the state. We almost got it passed last session. We're working with some of those veteran service organizations right now to give them a better understanding of how that process would work, so it's not too burdensome for the veteran. But this is also an issue that we consistently battle is property tax exemptions. So we will consistently be working on that, and you can hear those updates through our weekly legislative updates on some of those property tax exemption issues that we are fighting. Dark stores, another issue we've been fighting for a while. For those of you who are not familiar with the dark store issue, basically, the dark store issue has to do with vacated big box properties being used as comparable sales properties when a property is assessed. And those assessments, the bottom falls out of those assessments, thus providing those big box retailers with very reduced property tax assessments. Many of those properties that are vacated that they're using as their competitive sales have to do with deed restrictions. And when you think of a big box retailer, they pretty much sell anything under the sun. If they're going to restrict anyone else selling something similar, it basically restricts who can go into those properties, thus reducing the value of those properties. So we are going to be looking at these deed restrictions. This is one way we're going to attack this issue, and restricting restricting the way those deed restrictions are being used, so that those properties aren't artificially lowered. Those big box retailers aren't artificially lowering their assessments. Infrastructure, obviously something counties deal a lot with. And when we talk infrastructure, we're not just talking about roads, we're talking about roads, bridges, sanitary sewers, erosion, all sorts of different things. You can kind of see the list of funding that the governor has put in her budget to help with some of these issues. $300 million to fix some local bridges, $290 million for clean water plan, $40 million for high water level and coastal erosion planning, and $15 million for dam safety emergency funds. Counties deal with these infrastructure issues all the time. And of course you have road options, local road options being out there. We don't have details on that yet. It was just brought up in the governor's state of the state and her budget recommendation. We are looking for more information from her office to see what that means.
Hey, Steve, I know you're going to have questions when we're done here, and I've got some questions, and I'm sure commissioners have some questions, but on the addressing the underground infrastructure and threats to Michigan waterways and shorelines is $15 million for dam safety and emergency fund. Would that include the shoreline out in US 25 between Lexington and Port Sanilac? Would that money be dedicated towards that project?
I'll have to look in to see how that money is distributed. That may fall into more of the high water level coastal erosion planning, but can you say that again? Where was that located?
It's probably about 6-7 miles south of Port Sanilac, and what happened, the waters eroded the wall right next to US 25. And you're probably not familiar with it, but it's a big story in Sanilac County. They're trying to backfill and put stone and rock and soil back in there. It's been eroding substantially, and actually parts of it caved in when, Bill, last August, September, sometime frame. So, and I don't know the ins and outs about where the funding is coming for it, but I just wanted that would be something that we could look at that would help fund some of that.
Okay, yeah, I can look into that for you. Were there any other questions while we're at a break here? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I probably should have waited till end of the conversation, but on the COVID-19 aid, you mentioned there was 8.5 million coming, and that aid could be used for COVID-related expenses to replace revenue loss to the crisis. Obviously, it's affected everybody in the state, but can you explain that a little bit more? That 8 million, what was it? Is that at a county level? Or is it for businesses, small businesses, et cetera? What's that all cover?
Sure. So that would be $8 million that would come direct from the federal government to Sanilac County. At that point, right now, the way those funds can be used, and this is by and this will get more detail from this once it's passed from U.S. Treasury, but basically what it says is that it can be used for to respond or mitigate public health emergencies with respect to COVID-19 or its negative economic impact. So obviously very, very vague. But I think when you look at some of the ways that counties that did receive direct funding through the CARES Act, so the four largest were Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and Kent. Yes, a lot was used to help small businesses in those counties. They set up grants. They also made sure, that, they used it to cover any sort of increased overtime costs, things like that. So right now it's pretty loose on how you can use those funds. And I would suspect a lot of counties do use them for small businesses, but also to ensure that, as we move through this pandemic and we've seen a lot of businesses close, I don't think we know quite what the economic impact's going to be at the county level, especially on property taxes. What are foreclosures going to look like? How many businesses are closing and that sort of thing. So it'd be important to keep some of that aside just in case that does happen.
The last question I have, Steve, is about MAC 221 priorities. And I know our local newspaper had reached out to us commissioners here 2-3 weeks ago. And obviously there's pros and cons to it, but I think the pro, and I think we agree as commissioners for a four-year term. Right now, we have a 2-year term, and you're well aware of it, I'm sure. You are elected, you get in and learn the ropes and get on board with everything. And at the end of 1 year, you're already campaigning to run again. And so the pros would be it gives commissioners with a 4-year term, it gives us time to settle in and have experience and make good sound decisions. And I just wondered where we're at. And I know you said that you've taken this to legislatures before, and this is probably the most opportune time you've had. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think this is headed?
I give it a 60-40 right now. We were pretty close last year, ran into some committee chairs that didn't want to take it up, or for whatever reason, just it wasn't a priority for them. Like I said, there's a few more county commissioners in the legislature now that understand the issue. And I think you hit the nail on the head. And you guys know this probably more than anyone. When you become a county commissioner, it's not just your 1 or 2 board meetings a month. You're on another 5 committees, and then you have to become experts in those committees. And if, this is not just a part-time job, even though you're paid like a part-time employee. So there's a lot of learning that goes on, and to have to run every 2 years, just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense when county government touches as many issues as it does. So we're hopeful, but like I said, 60-40, it could get better as we start moving. We're early in the legislative session, but that's where I kind of put it at right now.
Well, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. I'll just move through the rest of my presentation real quick and then leave some more time at the end. Human services is another issue that we constantly deal with. We had the 17-year-old issue last year that moved the 17-year-olds out of the adult system into the juvenile system. In the current budget, we have made sure that there is funding to cover any sort of increased costs of moving those folks out of the adult system and into the juvenile system. County veterans, again, another issue with county veterans, but County Veteran Service Fund was a fund set up a few years ago, actually by the current Speaker of the House, which is about $4 million set aside for county veterans. There was a caveat to that legislation, though, that said you had to maintain a funding level that was established like in 2017 in order to receive those funds. Obviously, with COVID, some counties were not able to maintain that funding level. So we are seeking a one-year waiver on that to ensure that every county can have access to those county veteran service funds, even if they did fall below that funding level. Obviously, mental health, which you folks just had a presentation on, is important at the county level. And we support increased funding to support community mental health providers to meet the increasing demand on the system. And then Open Meetings Act, finally, that's kind of allowing us to meet the way we are right now. Basically, counties can meet for any reason electronically, fully virtually if they choose, until March 31st, 2021, so the end of this month. After that, counties could meet virtually, or local governments could meet virtually until December 31st, 2021, until the end of, so they could meet under this state of emergency, a local state of emergency. So you could have a county-wide state of emergency and you could meet remotely until December 31st, 2021. Then after that, there needs to be certain, you have to meet certain qualifications to meet virtually. So, the governor is going to have a press conference here in about 25 minutes. We do expect some loosening of some of the restrictions, both for facilities, increased capacity at facilities, restaurants. We'll see what the exact numbers are to see how that impacts this. But to be safe, I think the virtual option is the best option for counties until there's a number that counties feel comfortable with being able. Basically, it's the public participation component that becomes the problematic, is how many people can you allow in your facility to participate publicly. So,
Could you rephrase that, please? Say that again.
Sure. Which part? The public participation part?
Well, you just gave us a recommendation of advice.
Yeah. So, right now, I think based on not knowing how many people from the public are going to show up to your facility and what your capacity at your facility is, you don't want to turn people away from a public meeting. So right now, some sort of hybrid meeting probably makes sense. What you're doing right now, you're having your commissioners meet, you're allowing the public to participate virtually. So unless the capacity restraints are lifted to a level that you would feel comfortable with not having to turn people away from a public meeting, then this would probably be the best option going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you mentioned about, recommending that we continue in this manner unless the county decides otherwise. What were you referencing in that?
Yeah, so at the end of this month, you can meet fully virtually if you choose until the end of this month. Then after that, you'll need to have a local state of emergency or a state of emergency to meet virtually.
Yep, and at this point, we have neither.
Okay.
So at the end of the month, we'll have to make a determination whether we want to continue in this hybrid way or move forward with allowing the building to be open for the public as is required under the Open Meetings Act, right?
Correct. You'll need to make a decision on that.
And MAC is making a recommendation without any further lifting of restrictions that we do what?
Well, what I would say is, I'm not an attorney. I would consult your counsel first of all, but without having any sort of increase in capacity restrictions. So right now you're limited by how many people you can allow into the courthouse, correct? So without having a number that you would feel comfortable with allowing the public to participate, you would want to provide some sort of virtual option for your public to participate.
Thank you.
Yep. These are our policy committees. So everything I've spoken about, we've spoken about in our policy committees. This is when they meet virtually. So you don't need to come to Lansing to participate, and we encourage you to participate. If you'd like to, you go to our website, fill out an application. We'd love to have you on any one of those committees. We do have a MAC PAC. We use our PAC to support those former county commissioners in the legislature. Currently, there are 31 former county commissioners in the legislature. So we appreciate any support you can provide to our PAC. This is your advocacy team. Dina Bosworth, our Director of Government Affairs. She handles primarily our tax, finance, and local government issues. Megan Kites, Director or our Government Affairs Associate. She handles Health and Human Services. Whoa, my light went off. Health and Human Services and Judiciary issues. And Hannah Sweeney's our Government Affairs Assistant, and she assists in all our committees. We do have 2 conferences a year, which I mentioned. Our legislative conference is going to be virtual. It'll be occurring at the end of April, April 28th and 29th, and we should have information coming out on that very shortly. And then our annual conference, which will be this September, will be 26th through 28th. And then finally, these are our MAC communication tools. Hopefully you're getting our weekly update. We do a podcast. We've got Twitter, Facebook, all those good things. And we also do an every other month newsletter. So hopefully you're having access to that as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions for Steve?
Steve, this is Bill Sarkella. I want to say I appreciate the updates on a weekly basis because they're very informative, and it's great information that we can share with the folks that we represent.
Mhm.
Thank you. I'll pass that along to the rest of the team too.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. Good report. This is Commissioner Heberlin, and thank you for your time and attending our meeting. And this Commissioner Sarkella already said this is great updates, and good to hear from the report from you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Next on our agenda is appointments and standing committees. County Commissioner appoints boards. We have none. Same with 13B, County Commissioner appointments to boards, County Commissioner chair appointments, and no general resolution. One thing I did forget to mention earlier in our meeting, communications. It's on the blue sheet that was handed out to you. There's 10 items on the communication, and hopefully it's time to do that. Next on our agenda is a resolution honoring Susie Palmer for years of service. And Denise, is Susie out there? And I'll read this. Here. Yeah. Yeah, good jump. Susie, we're gonna make you come up here. Is that all right?
Wonderful. They made me come in and I don't know what I'm coming in
Well, we're gonna honor you with the resolution. Spent a lot of time in here.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Well, thank you for your years of service first, all right?
I enjoyed it.
Well, I'd like to read you this resolution and then maybe we'll gather around, and I think Mr. Kovac can get a picture here.
Okay.
All right, whereas Susan Palmer has, I call you Susie, but I know it's.
That's all right. That's all right.
Suzanne Palmer has retired from Sandlot County with over 18 years of service, and whereas Susie began her career at Sandlot County May 21st, 2002 as part-time employee with the Public Guardian's Office and retired as a district clerk for the 73A District Court. Whereas Susie has worked for retired District Court James Marcus and current Chief Judge Gregory Ross, and whereas Susie has demonstrated her knowledge of county government throughout her career as a public servant. Whereas Susie has served on the TPOAM District Court Collective Bargaining Unit, Stewart, for several years, and whereas Susie will now be able to spend more time with her family, especially her grandchildren, and traveling. That's special. We have grandchildren. Yeah, you bet.
The best.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners does hereby extend to Susie Palmer a heartfelt appreciation for her commitment to Sanilac County. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the proceedings of the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners on this day, and this second day of March 2021, and signed by myself, the County Commissioner Chairman. And personally, you're also my town
Thank
chapter
you.
champion. Thank you for your years of service.
Thank you.
Yeah, so. Yes, sir. I guess I'd like, let's move us forward.
Okay.
And if the rest of the commissioners would stand behind us and I'll present that to you. Is that all right?
We got all some new commissioners since I've been there, and I even know them. How about that?
Well, the worst part is they're all younger than I am too.
Once again, graduated with my kids. That's why I retired.
No, you're good, Gary.
Gary, we're good for distance.
We'll back up.
I do reside for Champion Township. Yeah,
Okay, well, we'll get the photo.
good old Deckerville.
We're gonna miss you. You're always so nice to
Well,
us.
thank you.
I didn't mean to grab that
Oh,
one.
that's okay.
So I'll do it like this.
Okay.
Can we show it?
Sure.
Yeah, that's kind of better, yeah. Everyone looking at me, I smile behind those masks. Okay. One more. Nice, thank you.
Well, thank you guys very much. It was a surprise. They didn't tell me what you were coming in for,
Well,
so.
thank you so much.
Thank you,
Susie.
thank you.
Congratulations, Susie.
Thank you, Roger.
You're gonna love it.
How is yours going?
Not too bad.
Kathy's back here sitting, right?
Once I get through my cataract surgery and I don't know what else I got going
Oh,
on, I'll be
wow.
good.
I like mine better. I'm flying to Arizona tomorrow. I
Are you?
got mine better.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
But thank you again, guys.
Next on our agenda.
Here, we need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Support.
you do. Okay, there's been a motion and support for Susie's resolution. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call. Yep, you're right. Sorry. We're going to do that in every resolution here. Yeah, sorry.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Chairman Huber.
Yes. Okay, moving on to our agenda. Next is the resolution for the USDA Rural Development Community Facilities Grant Program, Corrections K-9 Patrol Vehicle and Equipment. And Commissioner Block is going to read this resolution, present this resolution.
Whereas the Santa Ana County Sheriff's Office Corrections Division has identified a need to purchase a 2021 Ford Police Interceptor with related K-9 transport equipment to be assigned to the Corrections K-9 unit. And whereas the Santa Ana County Sheriff's Office has applied for grant funding through the United States Department of Agricultural Rural Development Community Facilities Grant Program. And whereas on February 16th, 2021, the Santa Ana County Sheriff's Office was notified by the United States Department of Agriculture that its pre-application had been reviewed and that a grant of $33,400 has been recommended to fund the project. And whereas as part of the grant process, the applicant must inform the general public of the proposed project, obtain the governmental body's vote to support the project, and agree to incur the proposed grant's obligations, thus fulfilling the public information meeting requirement. Therefore, be it resolved that the Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the Santa Ana County Sheriff's Office participation in the United States Department of Agricultural Rural Development Community Facilities Grant Program. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the proceedings of the Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners this second day of March, 2021.
Thank you, Commissioner Block. I'll entertain a support for this resolution.
Support.
It's been, resolution's been presented and a support. Any further discussion?
Yes, Chairman, the language there describing that the requirement of the grant process is the information to the general public of the proposed project. It's got a dollar amount saying, what the grant will be for, but it doesn't have a total dollar amount or the dollar amount that we would be required to put into it. And I think if we're supposed to, provide this information to the general public, it should also include the total amount of the project and the expected amount that the counties to pay.
Is someone online from the Sheriff Department?
Yep, you got Lieutenant Smith here. You also have a memo that I sent over there that talked about the county's estimated portion of being $11,200. But that may go up, depending on when we get this grant fully approved and if there's equipment costs that rise. So as of this point, it's hard to lock in a definitive number that it's going to cost.
So this grant is for a specific amount and it doesn't include a percentage that's required by the county?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The grant amount is a specific dollar value and does not include a specific percentage that needs to be chipped in?
So the USDA covers 75% of the grant. Our portion is 25% of the grant. Now, if the costs go up above and beyond that amount, then we got to go back and go through this process again.
What I hear you saying is that your proposed cost of the project is being reflected in this language as 75% is $33,400, right?
Correct. That is based on the pre-application amounts. So what we do is we get quotes and we have to provide them to the USDA for the equipment and the vehicle, and that is the 75% match that they're going to give us.
Well, I'll tell you, Lieutenant, it's a little bit confusing to me. So you were pre-approved for the grant to the tune of $33,400, or were you pre-approved for the grant for 75% of the purchase?
75% of the purchase is the $33,400.
Well, what I'm asking is, so for myself, I would rather see the language in the resolution reflect that you've been approved for 75% of the total, purchase price, whereas the other 25 is required on our part, rather than a dollar amount that doesn't give an indication of those percentage differences. I think it's...
Well, what you got to understand, Commissioner, is we actually have to come back in front of the board again to get approval when we go through the RFP process. And that'll explain that as well. No. We need a public support for that. That is part of the grant process. In order for me to lock in an amount saying the county is going to pay $11,200, that's what I can tell you that we're going to pay today based off of the 75%. But 6 months down the road, equipment costs rise. We may have to add another $1,000 onto that. So in order to lock it in a resolution, I don't know that that's fair.
Well, you wouldn't be locking anything in if you used simply the language that you're describing the grant application requires, which is a 75% paid for by the USDA and a 25% paid by the local municipality. And the resolution, in my mind, should say effectively that, because then it doesn't matter what the final cost is and the bids are. We've already committed to 25%. And that's ultimately what you want us to do, is to commit to 25%, correct?
Correct.
So I would say, gentlemen, that we should change the language in these two resolutions to...
Can we make a friendly amendment to the resolution by adding it right now that 75% is by the USDA, 25% by the county? Because we know that's what we want, right?
Are you fine with that, Lieutenant?
It's up to the board, as long as we get public body support.
As long as you get what you want, okay.
Well, that's not about getting what we want, Mr. Wyatt. It's about we're saving the taxpayers money by applying for these grants. So we're asking for your support in the matter.
We are completely supporting you. In fact, I would say changing the language on this resolution is
and that's totally fine. I'm just getting a little sarcasm from your comments. So
no, I'm poking fun at you. Good.
Well, listen, so if the rest of the commissioners are all right with it, and Lieutenant, if you're all right with it, I would like to propose a friendly amendment by stating in parentheses somewhere in this one of these, whereas 75% is coming from USDA and 25% from the county.
Do you want it just take out the 33,400?
That would be best.
Just take out the dollar amount and put it right there?
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Is that okay with you, Lieutenant? We take out the dollar amount and insert 75% by USDA and 25% by the county?
I would interject that maybe we should put I'd like to see that dollar amount in there, because I think that's the key.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to
that's the key information for the public.
Mm-hmm.
We can say that that a grant 75% of the project at an amount of 33,400, something to that nature, so that the 33,000 is still included in there.
How about to fund the project in the amount of 33,000? Put it at the end of the sentence,
That a grant,
that a grant of 75% funded by USDA and 25%
from the county.
has been recommended to fund the project of 33,400.
I think that's reasonable.
I kind of felt part of his concern is the cost could go up in this timeline of getting things approved. Am I wrong? It's a vehicle.
I think the key here is that, like Lieutenant said, 75% of that cost is going to be by the USDA. And I agree with Commissioner Block here, that 33,000 is part of 75%. And then back to your comment, Roger, is that 25% of that at the current day or time is 11,200, which could change.
Could go up.
It could go up, yeah. Subject to change. I know that's a lot, Denise. I'm sorry to try to confuse you.
We can't put it at the end, because actually isn't the total of the projects, the two figures added together. So,
Which is 44,600, and the language doesn't accurately reflect that.
yeah,
That's why that dollar amount doesn't work with that language, and it's also, like you said, it could go up. But if it's a percentage, it's automatic.
All this is to approve our approval of the resolution. And
To move forward.
They still have to get bids. They still, as he said, they still have to do the RFP. And that's when they'll get their true number. But I think just if we just put in the 75-25 language in there, I would think
It covers it.
it would cover it.
Yep. Because the 33.4 doesn't actually reflect the total cost of the grant.
It's not an
just-
actual cost. They don't know what that is yet.
Exactly.
And the cost is subject to change.
Right.
We don't know what that is. They don't know what that is. Going back to what we talked about, we still have to do the RFQ.
Could I just mention?
Yes,
that you-
go ahead, sorry.
And I think Lieutenant's off the line, but I think the concern is the 75-25, if it's over, we would have to pay the overage too, not just the 25%. So don't be careful what you're locking into.
Mhm. Well, ultimately, you have the option to be able to say no to the whole project, but the purpose that I was trying to reflect is that it says right in it that the reason why we're doing this is because it's required to tell the public body what the proposed project is and,
Right, maybe just reference approximately
yeah.
25%.
But a big key to that is the 75%, 25%.
It gives notice that the sheriff's office has went ahead and tried to obtain the cut costs for the county, that they get a grant for 75% of it. So I think when we get to that point down the road, we still have the option, the opportunity to say yes or no. Right?
What are you suggesting, Curie? I didn't catch it.
Well, right now, what they're asking is if they can move forward with the grant and with the 75%, 25%. When we get down the road, if the costs is substantial, we have the opportunity at that point in time to make that determination, yes or no, not to move forward with it. But right now, they're just asking to move forward with the 75%, 25% grant, and with the option of moving forward with it.
So
Am I wrong?
I would rather, my position would be, we either get rid of the dollar amount completely, because as Roger had pointed out, we're showing our support for the project to move forward to the next point.
Yep.
Or we give the full amount of general public knowledge to say it's a 75%, 25% split. You could even add to the point that at this point, the early proposal is $44,000 for the total project, right? And let those people figure out what 75-25 is.
Correct. I think Roger said that, because it is, Lieutenant Smith already said, it could be subject to change,
Yeah. But we're not gonna,
And that's an unknown, we don't know.
what do you have?
well, do you want the 44.6 in there? I got the 75% funded by USDA and 25% county responsibility. It's just, did you want to add the 44.6?
Whatever you want, Chairman, as far as that.
I think 75%, 25%, we're done.
With no dollar.
And Commissioner Sakala, did you support that? I got lost in the shuffle here. Who supported this resolution?
I forgot.
It was Commissioner Black and seconded by Commissioner Sarcella.
That's what I thought, yeah. It's like the movie Clint Eastwood, and he forgot how many shots he fired, you know?
You're lucky.
Gary, you're shooting blanks.
Yeah. All right, any further discussion? Denise?
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Chairman Huber.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Good discussion. Next on the agenda is a resolution USDA Rural Development Community Facility Grant Program, Patrol Vehicle and Equipment.
Before I dive into this one, are we going to end up in the same
Yes.
situation?
Yes.
So should we just, I'll just change the verbiage now to reflect a 75% grant, 25%?
Great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do my best with this. Whereas the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office Uniform Services Division has identified a need to purchase a 2021 Ford Police Interceptor with related equipment to be assigned to the Uniform Services Division, and whereas the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office has applied for grant funding through the United States Department of Agricultural, Rural Development, Community Facilities Grant Program, and whereas on February 18th, 2021, the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office was notified by the United States Department of Agriculture that its pre-application had been reviewed and that a grant paying 75% of the total cost has been recommended to fund the project. And whereas as part of the grant process, the applicant must inform the general public of the proposed project, obtain the governmental body's vote to support the project, and agree to incur the proposed grant's obligations, thus fulfilling the public information meeting requirement. Therefore be it resolved that the St. Louis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office participation in the United States Department of Agricultural, Rural Development, Community Facilities Grant Program. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the proceedings of the St. Louis County Board of Commissioners this second day of March 2021.
There's been a resolution presented and support. Any further discussion?
I just want to say that United States Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Community Facilities Grant Program is a mouthful.
Yes, yeah.
Repeat that.
That was last time.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Black. Okay, seeing no further discussion or comment on the resolution, it's been read and supported. This time, Denise, do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Chairman Huber.
Yes. Resolution passed. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is a resolution supporting MDNR grant application for Sunlight County Forester Park Accessibility Playground renovation project. Mr. Black.
Okay, now I have two potential resolutions for this one here. One adding a 50% contribution of funds language. Is there a preference?
Guess where that came from?
I think based off what's on our agenda and following Robert's rules, let's go through, read this resolution, and then another copy here presented before the meeting. And that may need to be a friendly amendment or amendment to this resolution. So let's, following Robert's rules, let's go ahead and present this resolution to the commissioners.
The one that's in the actual.
In our packet, yeah.
Whereas the St. Louis County Board of Commissioners supports the submission of an application titled the Forester Park Accessibility Playground Renovation Project to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund for development of an accessible playground renovation and addition at Forester Park. And whereas the proposed application is supported by the county's 5-year approved Parks and Recreation Plan, and whereas the St. Louis County Board of Commissioners is hereby making a financial commitment to the project in the amount of $160,300 with funds provided by the park millage. Now therefore be it resolved that the St. Louis County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes submission of a Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant for $160,300, and further resolves to make available its financial obligation in the amount of $80,200, 50% project costs with funding from the Parks Millage during the 2021-2022 fiscal year.
Support. At this time, I'll open this resolution up for support. I know there's some discussion on it. I know there was another document presented, so I'll open up the floor at this time to the commissioners.
I can tell you how that got left out and why you got this.
Okay.
I had just finished typing this and emailed it in for a submittal and was told that it was already in the packet and I was before the deadline. So the other one got put in the packet without the mention of the 50%
Okay.
in that line. So this one is correct, the loose one.
This one here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Commissioner, would you like to make a friendly amendment to add the updated 50% to this resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll support that amendment.
Okay.
And it is stated in the last paragraph.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? Excuse me, Denise, did you get that? Sorry,
Yep.
I didn't mean to
I need
rush
the
your head.
full-
Okay. Yeah, this is the one.
Yep.
Which makes sense. So. You can go ahead and call for it.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Chairman Teagle.
Yes. The friendly amendment resolution, which was handed out, will be the legal resolution that we approve. Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. Next on our agenda is FA.
Chairman, can we do committee reports quick, please?
Pardon me?
Can we do the committee reports?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
I went right on by that.
that's
Sorry.
okay. I had kind of skipped the commissioner report. I wanted to cover something here, so.
Sure. This time we'll hear the committee reports. And I missed that, sorry.
Yep, not a problem. Is it okay that I start?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so we had my first health board meeting last Friday, very informative, some really good information, so I thought I would share it with everybody here. As of this morning, Salem County, this is kind of an interesting number, has vaccinated 9,999 people. So kind of interesting how that worked out. 5,958 of those, I believe, are the first dose, 4,041 of those are second dose. The health department is working on a vaccine clinic over the next few days that they estimate will vaccinate another 550 people. They have a mass clinic going in Sandusky that they figure is going to vaccinate about 870 people. There was a little concern brought up, and I wanted to share that with you guys, that Salem County is up at 4.4% positivity rate. The state average right now is 3.5%. So it's just something to be aware of. Our Salem County medical director had also offered some comments on getting through this potential third wave in the thumb. And he had stated that we have to have a higher rate of vaccinated individuals than the spread of the new variant, which I believe is the UK variant that they seem to be concerned with. It's 50 to 70% more contagious than the previous variant. And so what they're just trying to encourage is mask wearing, social distancing, the standard hygiene practices that have gotten us this far. And they just wanted to, push that idea that people need to continue doing that, even though we're all plenty sick of doing it. So that's all that I had for that particular committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Black. I was watching a news channel last night, and there was a former assistant health director for our government was saying that the vaccine they're giving out now for the COVID that we experienced right along, he said is very helpful with the new variant coming up. I don't know if that was mentioned.
It was. There was a pile of information. I certainly broke it down into something very small. I guess the one other thing that I thought was a positive point too is, and I wouldn't expect anything less. I feel like Salem County, we're very pragmatic, we're very practical people. And this vaccine and the distribution, it's complicated. There's temperatures, there's dates and stuff. And multiple people in that meeting reiterated that there's been very, very, very little waste, that there has not been half vials of vaccine getting wasted periodically here and there. I believe Director Wilkie physically stated that he could count on both hands what they figure, doses that could potentially be wasted. out of 10,000 doses, I feel like that's pretty impressive. So,
Very impressive. And just to add to a plus thing to your report, I was notified last Friday by one of our employees at a local hospital that the Rite Aid store in Marlette was distributing COVID yesterday and today. And a number of our aging senior citizens, I guess, I'm starting to fall into that, was going to be opened up. So some of them took in our local community took advantage of that. So some good things happening with the vaccine. Bill, any committee reports?
No, I kind of gave mine earlier, but I do want to ask John a question. Was there any indication when the waiting list is going to be reopened?
so I didn't dive into that too much. They felt very confident that they were going to be caught up with the people that had applied previously, because there was that large mass clinic that had happened a few weeks ago. I know my own grandmother, we had signed her up for that, never got a response, but she is doing that tomorrow now. And they feel like the majority of those people should be caught up and they should be looking for new applications by the end of this week was the way that I understood it. So.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your report, Commissioner.
No problem.
Roger?
I jumped the gun and did mine early,
Okay.
but in regard to Rite Aid, I was by there yesterday. You couldn't have found a spot there, parking spot. They were busy. So it's a good thing.
Commissioner Wyatt.
Chairman, we did have a meeting today with the policy committee. It'll be the second of this year. We discussed reevaluating some of the policies pertaining to the classification and wage scale. So that'll be something we'll be exploring as we go further. Be able to give a recommendation to the full board.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank everyone for, apologize, I got wrapped up in other things.
Oh, that's okay. I wasn't going to let you pass me over.
No. All right. Okay, moving on to new business is FA 042-21, approval of 2020 current claims, Board of Commissioners.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2021 identified on the accounts payable report dated February 23rd, 2021 for the general bank account in the amount $205,800.24. Support.
Then motion made in support. Any further discussion? Is this roll call? This is not roll call. Okay, that's what, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed for FA 042-21. Next is FA 043-21, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following budget amendments, transfers, and establishes the following accounts.
Entertain the support.
Support.
Okay, then motion made in support. Any discussion, questions?
What's the other repairs, MTC?
So that would be dispatch. So that would be tower maintenance for the 911 millage.
Did something happen that was resulting in an increase or?
Not that I am aware of.
You put on the bottom page 6.
Yeah, bottom of page 6 there, 50 grand. It says repairs, which means something happened, right? Oh, that's maintenance.
Mhm.
Is that what MTCE means?
Yeah,
Maintenance. Oh, okay, could be repairs and maintenance. Thank you.
No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. Next is FA 04421, approval of transporter agreement, 24 Circuit Court Family Division.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the Sanilac County Circuit Court Family Court Juvenile Division Agreement for RDSS quasi-volunteer between Sanilac County Family Court Juvenile Division and Nicholas Nemitz at a cost of $12 per hour and shall not exceed $2,400 through the life of the agreement.
Motion and support for approval of transporter agreement, 24 Circuit Court. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. FA 04521, authorization of the Rave Mobile Safety Annual Smart 911 license fee.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the payment for the Rave Mobile Safety Annual Smart 911 license fee not to exceed $5,000 with funding from the 911 millage.
Entertain your support of that. And then motion made and support, authorization of the Rave Mobile Safety Smart 911 license fee not to exceed $5,000. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. Next is FA 046-21, authorization to post and fill drain maintenance supervisor vacancy for the Drain Commission.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the Drain Commissioner to post and fill the drain maintenance supervisor position at a pay grade 6, along with the amended job description as follows.
And as you see on page 8 is the job description, 8 and 9. May I entertain a support in this?
Support.
Okay. Discussion.
Doug was going to do all the work by himself.
I don't know if Doug is online or not. Commissioner Wyatt, myself, Jody, and Tara met 2-3 weeks ago with Doug, and this, again, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. This is a position that was vacated by our commissioner when he was a drain maintenance supervisor, and he moved up. So basically what we're doing is backfilling the position he held as the drain maintenance supervisor.
If I may, Chairman, it does reflect a positive note that having the Personnel Committee review those positions and evaluate those worked out pretty well because, you know, there were some needed changes to the job description that the Commissioner identified. Sort of identified through the process of having it submitted to the Personnel Committee.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, a useful function.
And that's a very positive comment and good information to share with everyone because there were some things deleted, there were some things in the qualifications, and it turned out to be a real good meeting. And I think everyone in the meeting positive thought pattern and the change that we made were good ones. So, no.
Is that the pay grade that was at prior to this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. Thank you. Moving on to FA 047-21, authorization to post and fill vacancies, Central Dispatch.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the Central Dispatch Director promote one part-time employee to full-time and fill 2 remaining part-time vacancies.
I'll support. Any further discussion?
Well, they had a retirement of a full-time position.
Yes.
Was promoted, and they had those 2 part-time positions that they filled, or that we're authorizing to have them filled. And they also gave us a heads up on the need for the possibility of having some additional staff in the future, Gary, is that?
Yes, that, I believe that's what was brought up in
Put
there.
together a package to be submitted for review. Was that I don't recall, was that because there was some additional demands placed on them?
I don't remember why that came about. Tara, do you remember? I was trying to remember all the
I
things
believe it,
discussed with Dawn in that meeting.
I believe it was moving some part-time positions to
That's
full-time,
what it
like
was.
consolidating
Yeah,
2
you're right.
part-time
Yep.
positions.
Yep.
So we were under the impression then that this went through the Personnel Committee as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Okay.
we blessed it. And, yeah.
Thank you.
And is any personnel meeting, we have lots of questions and, yeah. So. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. FA 048-21, authorization to invest in Merritt's Trust.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the continuation of investing future CVR funds into the county's MERS trust account.
Support. Any discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. FA 049-21, approval of community corrections gatekeeper contract, community corrections.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the FY 2021 Community Correction Gatekeeper Services Contract between Community Corrections Advisory Board, Sanilac County, and Wendy Parks, and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary contract.
Support.
Okay, been a motion made and support. Any questions, comments?
Kara, we've seen them give us a presentation a couple of years in a row. And didn't we ask them if did we have them present this year?
He presented, well, he
I don't
was
remember.
here
him
a couple
being in.
meetings ago.
Yeah.
Um,
What's been the usage of service for this?
I think it's been slow right now, obviously due to COVID. So once the courts reopen, we are holding a meeting with the newly elected, the sheriffs, judges, the prosecutor to determine how we can incorporate this programming into future sentencing for our felony probationers. So that is something that's on the radar as far as, I think the program was a little bit stalled due to maybe some miscommunication on available programming and who was supposed to, order that sentencing to complete that service, if you will. So we're going to try to work everything out of that so we can increase the numbers as far as who's receiving those benefits.
Is there a number on this contract?
Like a dollar amount,
Yeah.
you mean? The actual grant agreement would have a dollar amount, so that would have been approved probably maybe September last year.
Was it like 7,000 or 14,000?
I can't recall. I could pull that
I
information.
didn't even know if it was that high.
Wasn't even that high?
Well, it might have been 4. I don't think it was 7.
The gatekeeper piece, which is the contract word that's on the agenda today, that was probably around maybe 2,400.
Okay.
Has it in there. But the actual grant agreement that also provides those services is higher, obviously.
They haven't been utilizing it this last,
Well, we've had difficulties with COVID.
Yeah, because of the COVID.
Everything's pretty much
Yeah.
delayed, if you will.
and it's paid forward, not reimbursed for activity.
It's reimbursed.
It's reimbursed.
Yes, that's what the gatekeeper is responsible for. So that individual is submitting information and compiling the data to get it to the state for reimbursement.
Okay.
The thought was that the Community Corrections Board would come back in and make a presentation to the newly elected officials. So then they'll be on the same page knowing what's available to them and how to utilize it. As soon as perhaps COVID restrictions are lifted further so they can.
Kind of wondering that if it was monies set aside for a particular function and that function wasn't done, it wasn't completed because of, for whatever reasons, was that money still spent, every bit of it regarding, payroll to have the people there, or?
I would assume it went back to the state. I would assume whatever we didn't utilize would have went back to the state.
Okay.
But that meeting that Commissioner Sarpell is referencing, that's taking place March 12th, so
Okay.
coming up here.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Well,
Platt?
what's the time frame on this for us to, what would happen if we said no to this? Then what?
Well, I don't feel we've utilized it yet this year, but when we get to the point where they're able to implement these services into sentencing, we'll need that gatekeeper to process that information so we can get reimbursement from the state.
So we don't need this done right now. We could wait until after he gives us presentation, so we're all on the same page.
I don't know that
Understand where
I
it's
would
going.
recommend waiting
Yeah,
I don't know if they're doing any type of Zoom sentencing where it could be implemented and then we don't have an individual who's able to process the information or get it to the state.
I don't know.
The thought is the courts would want to utilize it right away.
Canada, are you still on the?
Once they're educated that they know this is available to them.
Yeah, I think that's what they want to know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think Lieutenant Smith's still on either, is he?
I don't know that he is involved in this. It might be Lieutenant Moody who's involved in this.
We're both here and neither one of us have heard of that, so.
Okay. All right. Okay.
wouldn't it be prudent to wait and let him make his presentation or tell him that we're waiting for his presentation so we have a better understanding of what it is? I gotta confess, I'm not really quite sure.
Well, the gatekeeper is the contracted individual who's going to be assisting with processing the information. So if we don't have an individual to process the information, if it comes in,
Yeah.
what do we do? What do we do in the meantime?
Could the prosecutor's office answer anything alluding to this? No.
Is there any fiscal responsibility in approving this contract?
This position is approved or paid through the grant. So it's all through the grant that covers the
And that's why we don't
programming.
see a dollar amount on it.
Right, right. It's an.
My apologies, gentlemen. Let's move on with it.
Good questions. I think we come to our answer, right?
Yeah, we figured it out.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same, motion passed. FA 050-21, approval of Title 4D consulting firm, prosecutor's office.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the prosecutor contracting with MGT Consulting for the purpose of preparing 2021 Title 4D billings and contract services, paternity and child support actions at a cost under $2,000 following state reimbursement with funding from the prosecutor's budget.
Support.
Discussion?
The prosecutor's office online?
Brenda was on earlier.
Yes, she
Looks like it.
was,
Yes,
Hello. Hi, Brenda.
hi.
Ms. Sanford, I remember when you presented this, you had mentioned something about that this would give you the ability to take action that would result in greater reimbursement from the state. Did you mean to say that it would actually, I don't want to say generate a profit, but it would be open up an avenue for additional resource or funding into your office, or no?
No, that's the hope that when they go through and do this, that they will find avenues. I know Ann Morozek said when they started contracting with this firm, that they found new sources of revenue that brought in. There's no guarantee that they will do that, but that's the expectation. And it actually, the contract that we have presented, that they put together would start April 1st, but they are willing to throw in the previous 6 months for free. They're going to go back to October 1st because that's the state fiscal year, and they're going to include the 6 previous months for free, and then the contract would start April 1st. It will go for a year, and then if things are going well, then I'll come back to you and ask for a renewal.
Has the previous administration under Jim Young's leadership, did they do this type of work prior?
Yes, they were doing billings, but we're finding that perhaps there were things that maybe weren't modernized.
Okay, so this means that your office won't be actively doing this billing anymore. It'll be done by this contractor?
Well, we'll be preparing. I mean, Margie will still have to pull together some of the documents and it'll be sent to them. They will be handling negotiating. We have a contract that's coming up, a 5-year contract that's going to be coming up October 1st. They will be actively involved in negotiating that and going forward with preparing the budgets and stuff like that. They have at the finance meeting, an overwhelming majority of the prosecutor's offices use this firm, and the front of the court has used this firm for a decade, I'm told.
So it's safe to say that by utilizing this contracting firm, it'll benefit us in the long run, but also in the short term, it'll lighten the load in your office a bit?
Well, it will
Is this-
not lighten the load, it'll just shift around responsibilities a little bit.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Next is FA 051-21, authorization to update county server information technology.
The Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes equipment, installation, and configuration from NetSource One for the purpose of updating the county server at a cost not to exceed $99,092 with funding of $89,092 from Information Technology System budget and $10,000 from the Register of Deeds Technology Fund.
Support.
Okay, been moved and supported. Questions?
I know you guys went over this last week. Was there anything interesting to talk about? Because that's a pretty big number.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the information technology meeting, we discussed this in length and we were informed that this, not only is this new system going to be obviously a huge update from what we have, but it's expandable and we're going to have a lot better backup of our data here at the county based off having this. I do have a question though about the 10,000 coming from the Register of Deeds it just kind of seems.
From what I understand, when Register of Deeds performs services, so much of their revenue is placed aside in an account that can be utilized for technology.
Okay.
So every now and then we're able to justify utilizing some of that towards upgrades.
Okay.
Does any of this tie in with the new expansion at the courts? Because I know they got like $50,000 worth of updated cameras and servers.
That's a good question. I don't have
the answer to that.
I don't have the answer to that one.
I just know this is badly needed to bring us up to speeding up to today's technology.
Mhm.
That was just video recording, wasn't data. Okay.
Did you have a comment?
No, that's what I was going to mention, was that it was more video related.
If memory serves me right, wasn't there a correlation there that she discussed about this being able to, because we're going to have way more data based on the video recording?
Servers specific.
And the
Your
server was going to
electronic
give us the
file.
capacity? Okay, so they do correlate there.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. FA 052-21, adoption of the FY 222 resolution of intent of approval of the FY 2022 contract clauses clarification. Satellite transportation, sorry.
The Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby adopts the FY 2022 resolution of intent along with FY 2022 contract clauses certification for satellite transportation and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary documents.
Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Last FA is the addition to our adopted agenda today. And this is FA 039-21, approval amendment of the monumentation contracts. Basically, one company went out of business and was turned over, and it's now Tank Services LLC. Mr. Locke, go ahead.
The Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby approves and amends the following 2021 contracts. John Militex for County Representative Services in the amount of $2,991.45. Research Survey and Monumentation and Peer Group Services with Tank Surveying LLC, assigned 14 corners, total contract $18,852. John Militex assigned 14 corners, total contract $17,500. Atlas Surveying assigned 13 corners, total contract $16,874. and further approves the peer group ratification services with Russell Brown, total contract $936.
Go ahead, Bill.
You got it.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Block, supported by Roger Ballard, Commissioner Ballard. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. Next on our agenda is public comment. I'll open it up for public comment one more time. And I am sorry, but I don't recognize who you are. Did you have a public comment?
No, I did not. From Congresswoman McLean's office. Congresswoman McLean.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. We've had Congressman McLean up here for a couple meetings and been very positive. Yeah, thank you.
That's good to hear. Just trying to keep her updated.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'd like to ask Commissioner Block if he would help me and restate this item on the server upgrade and the 99,000, that was the total cost.
Yep, let me get back to that real quick here.
There was something at the end of it, $92, I believe.
Yep, so the total cost was not to exceed $99,092 with funding in the amount of $89,092 coming from the Information Technology System budget and another $10,000 from the Register of Deeds Technology Fund.
There's no need for any other questions? Public comments? There's no closed session today, and so there won't be need for a closed approval of closed session meetings. And the next motion I'd like to hear is the adjournment of our meeting.
So moved.
Support. There's been a motion made to close the meeting and support. Any further questions?